Do you believe in fairies and have a curious mind?
Have you had a close encounter of the fairy kind?
Join us, your Fae guides, to enchantment and lore.
Pixies, goblins, elves, mermaids, and more.
Conversations vast and varied.
As we ponder,
What the fairy?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of What the Fairy. Hello, I'm
hello.
your host Emma, and then we also have the lovely Claire. Hello,
Hi.
Claire.
Hi, Emma. Yeah, we just have to say that we're missing Anastasia at the moment, but she's going to appear later on.
Fairies will
Yes.
drop her off later.
Yes.
But this week we're talking about a subject that we've all been really excited about, aren't we, Claire?
Yes.
And that is some of our favourite fairy-related books.
Yeah.
Hasn't been the easiest one to sort of narrow down, but I think we've selected a couple each, haven't we? There's many more. We could do many more episodes, I'm sure, on other
Yes.
books, and listeners might be able to recommend some of their favourites at some point.
Yes. That'd be great.
We're
Yeah.
lucky to live in such a world where there's going to be so many titles that we've never even come across. So it's
Yes.
lovely to share some of our favourite ones.
Yeah, we've both got a huge, and I'm sure Anastasia has as well, libraries of fairy and esoteric books. So there's lots to choose from. That's why it's hard to narrow it down, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then because obviously once you normally find one, you get directed to another one, and then you love that book as well, and it just goes
Yes.
on, doesn't it? But the the couple that I have picked, I've gone for two of the oldest ones in my collection, or some of the earliest ones that I remember sort of coming across, and they just really impacted my life in such a magical way. I thought they're the two that I'll start this time with. No doubt there's more another time. But yeah, these two. So which ones have you gone for, Claire, this time?
So I have gone for Seeing Fairies, which I know the three of us all absolutely love, by Marjorie T. Johnson and edited by Dr. Simon Young. And a second book is, Pixie, Folklore and Legends by Ennis Tregarthen, which is, she was a Cornish author. And I'll talk a
Brilliant.
bit more about her when I talk about the book. But yeah, two of
Yeah.
my favourites. How
Your
about,
neck of the woods as well.
yeah, how about you, Emma? What are yours that you're going to speak about?
Well, I have got Seeing Fairies just to one side there, so I was glad you picked that up. But I have got The Complete Guide to Fairies and Magical Beings by Cassandra Eason.
Mm,
Cover there.
nice.
And a classic has to be, doesn't it? I've got Good Fairies, Bad Fairies by Brian Froud.
Oh, brilliant. Yes.
Obviously, I love this book. When I first came across this book, I believe it was like 1999 or 2000, something around then. It it literally was. I was seeing real fairies on the pages.
Mm.
They to me they are he sees fairies
Hmm.
as they are, and I couldn't get over the artwork in it.
Yeah.
Couldn't put it down. And I love the topsy-turvy nature of this book. So
Uh-huh.
obviously fairies is up one way and on
Yes.
one side, and then you have to turn the book upside down around the other way to get to the
Mm.
bad fairies. Well, I just love little bits like that.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah. It's really fun. So,
Yeah.
what are some of your favorite parts of the book, Emma?
Um, One of my favourite parts of I'll start with Good Fairies, Bad Fairies, since I've just rattled on
Mm.
about it there, are lots of the little scribbly sketch drawings in it rather than the big pieces, and the little snippets that he's pencil written, obviously in journals or like that are on the pages as if they're still written. I'll show. Can you see that bit in the middle there? So it
Oh,
looks like
yes.
penciled on,
Yeah.
penciled
That's
in,
great.
and just some of these little quotes and little notes are they're just so magical, and they absolutely sing to my fairy heart. I love it. I mean, but this page where I've just opened says fairies are the innate nature of the land and the reflection of the inner nature of our souls.
Brilliant.
Just
Oh,
lovely. Yeah,
yes. He does write some lovely things about the nature of fairies. Has Brian written the text in that, or is it his wife Wendy?
I believe it's him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's him. Just from little bits from his sketchbooks and things.
Nice.
And this quote always stuck with me because this is completely how I feel. Fairies are seen not by the eyes but through the heart. It
Yes.
really is about the
I,
heart
I
connection, isn't
love,
it?
yeah,
I love
definitely.
that. So yeah, just
Yeah.
going across this book and seeing fairies as I've always seen them myself on the
Mm.
pages, it was the most magical. Well, it still is. I'm flicking through it now as we're speaking. It's just so beautiful, and the information in here, as well as the beautiful pieces of art. It's just a glorious, glorious book. But there's so much folklore in here as well. So if you want to actually learn about the
Yes.
history of fairies, types of fairies, how to connect with them, the individual fae, it is full to the brim
Mm.
of information for people to learn about. It's just beautiful. One of my favourite pieces in here is in the good fairy side. Just trying to find it. It's called The Fairy That Was Kissed by the Pixies, I think.
Oh, yes, I know that
It's
one.
so beautiful. It just does something to me every time I look at it, but I can't find it now.
That is one of my favorite images as well because he
There it
includes,
is.
yeah,
Yeah, the fairy who was kissed by the pixies.
it's, yeah, beautiful.
If I can hold it up.
Yeah, I love it. It's
Oh, it's
great.
just magical. I love it. And
And
what I
the,
love,
yeah,
what I love about Brian's art is it is the fact that you can turn the pieces upside down and
mm,
see of new faces that you couldn't when the page was up the right way. Or the
yes,
more you look at it, there's just faces hidden amongst it. There's just the more you look, I think you
yeah,
see something new every single time you look at the pieces that he does.
yeah, because his art is inspired by nature. So he'll go out and look at a tree stump and see faces in it and draw that, and from that, then the fairies will come from actually studying nature. And
Yeah, and it is that, isn't it? It's the
yeah,
essence of it on the page. It's absolutely, oh, it's just beautiful.
he
I love
he
it.
was saying that actually because I went to a talk of his a couple of weeks ago, as you know, and he was talking to art students about turning their work upside down. You know, if they think he was saying how we struggle as artists to get the right line or the right image and then it will suddenly come. But if it's not working sometimes, he said, I turn my work upside down and I see what comes from that. So
Yeah,
that's
a new
very much,
perspective on
yeah,
it. Oh, that's so fairy, isn't it?
yeah, it
I
is.
love it.
He is like a
It's
fairy.
optimism, and that's the thing about
Yeah.
nature, isn't it? As well, saying it's about nature. Nature is
Mm,
perfectly imperfect, if you know what I
mm.
mean.
Yes.
It's yeah, it's beautiful. So that book for me, I can highly recommend to anybody that's interested in fairies and art. nature.
Mhm.
Absolutely wonderful. But I do love the fact that it isn't just all about the good fairies. You turn it round and upside down, and you get a little hint of the darker side of fairy as well. So
Yes.
it's
And
really good. The mischievous side.
it's interesting as well because I think Brian goes by the understanding that there are no good or bad fairies. It's just our perception of them.
That's
And so
it.
he's playing with that idea of fairies don't really follow our rules and that it's our viewpoint of whether they're good or bad.
Yeah, that's
And
it. When you
yeah,
think about the essence of nature,
yeah,
it can be quite tough, can't it,
yes,
really?
it can.
Nature
Yeah.
itself can be harsh. So yeah, there's bound to be
Mm,
the darker and the light. It has to be. Balances everything out, doesn't it?
it does. That's right.
So yeah.
Yes.
But some of these images of fairies, I mean some of them are quite frightening really when you look at them. But they
Have you
are
got a
absolutely
scary one?
amazing.
Is there a scary one you can share?
Oh yeah, so this one is hopefully I'm going to say this right. The bigot bogey. Rancid creature leaps from nowhere with sharp talons and stiff fingers clutching its victims back, riding them, urging them to spout in like an intransient dogma. Its harsh voice croaks. Oh, it's creepy. That I won't read it all because it's might not be
Mm.
good for some. But look at that.
Oh, wow.
Oh dear. You wouldn't want to come across that
No.
on walks, would you?
Oh, my goodness.
Oh dear.
Oh, I definitely ran the other direction.
Yeah, definitely. I bet that's one of the worst ones I could have picked, probably as well. Yeah. Oh, I think I've come across this one myself before. The sink fairy.
Oh,
This
yeah.
malodorous creature lives down the drain. I think we've
Oh,
probably all met that one before. It looks a bit peaky, actually.
oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. I would be surprised if I met him whilst I was cleaning out the plug hole in the
Yeah,
bathroom.
clean the sink. Oh dear. Yes, it's wonderful, wonderful book. And then,
Brilliant.
did you want to do one now? Do you want to talk about one?
Yeah,
You?
okay. I'll
And then we'll
share about
alternate again.
seeing fairies. I'll introduce this one.
Oh,
Yes. As I said, it's by Marjorie T. Johnson, and she was part of the forming sort of members of the Fairy Investigation Society. And she collected stories from letters. This is in the time when, before the internet, she was writing this in the early part of the 20th century. And yeah, so she created this book from letters that people sent to her. Some of them were responses to a notice that she put in a London paper called John o' London, which no longer exists. And she asked for fairy stories in there, and people wrote in with their fairy stories. And yeah, so she managed to reap from her work, her research, an amazing record of how people have connected with fairies
yeah.
up until she died when she was about 101. Um, and then Simon Young, Dr. Simon Young, who's a brilliant fairy researcher, he restarted the Fairy Investigation Society a few years ago, and he managed to get Marjorie's book published because it wasn't published in her lifetime. She had plans for it, and I know how she feels. Someone,
Bless her.
someone trying to get a book done that she had various trials to get over in her life, and it just never got published. So well done to Simon for getting it out there.
Oh,
And yeah, there's some fantastic accounts in here. And I mean, she was an interesting person. She was, Simon Young calls her a shaman, really, because she had fairy sight, mediumistic abilities since she was a child. So she had that connection with fairies anyway. And so she understood people's experiences because she had that insight herself. So I think that's why she was trusted by people, probably.
yeah.
And
And she would have just obviously believed them and been
yeah,
excited to hear
yes,
what they had to say.
e- exactly. It'd be, yeah, she wouldn't have been so, yeah, trying to discount people's experiences. She would have just accepted it. And that's what she did. She didn't,
Yeah.
there's no actual analysis of people's experiences. It's just a collection of people's experiences, which is one of the things I love about it. She's not
Yeah.
said, oh, maybe it was this or that or the other. Going through it, you can just kind of think, oh, well, that experience is similar to what someone else had in Devon or up in Yorkshire or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. Just years apart.
years apart. That's right,
Years
over many
apart as well.
years. So yeah, I printed off a couple of my favourite ones that I'll just mention. This one was on the Devon and Cornish border, and it appeared in the John O. London magazine. I think it was 1935, 1936. Shall I read? I'll read the letter, shall I?
Oh, yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah. So this letter was from Joyce Chadwick and it was dated March 1936 and it's written into the John O. London Weekly magazine. One of your correspondents asks on March the 7th for a first-hand account of fairy seen in this country and proceeds to relate two very interesting stories of what West Country men would, I think, call piskies. A few years ago, on the Cornish-Devon border, I was surprised to see on the cliff above me the figure of a tiny man dressed in black, strutting around in a rather vain-looking way. So incredulous was I of the existence of the Pisky people that I said to myself, in a minute I shall see what he really is, a bird or a shadow. But no, he went on being a tiny man until he changed into a quite indescribable thing. Are not Piskie's Irish cousins known as the shape changers? Something with the appearance of a long furry black roll which gamboled about on the grass and then disappeared. A few minutes later, however, two more little shapes became visible, slightly larger and much rounder than the first Piskie man. They were sitting one on either side of a gorse bush, making movements like those made in sawing with a two-handled saw. Curiosity impelled closer investigation, but the short cut I took up the cliff ended in unclimbable steepness and rubble, and I was obliged to return to the shore. So she says by the time she got up there, she couldn't see them, they'd gone. But she said she couldn't work out where they were sat because where they were sat was overhanging the cliff. So they must have been sat in midair.
Yeah.
Yeah, really strange. And then she finishes with this question, which isn't, she doesn't say any more, but she says, there was a somewhat amusing sequel a few days later when I again saw and tried to come near a group of good people, but my letter is already too long. So,
Literally left us on a
yeah,
cliffhanger.
on a cliffhanger. was like, what? That bit's not included in the book. That's from the original
Oh,
article. And I
I
was
want
like,
to hear more now.
oh my gosh. So she had more than one encounter with these beings. And
But can you
really,
just describe that again, Claire? What she said they turned into?
so they turned
Oh,
into, so the little, yeah, so the figure of a tiny man dressed in black, strutting around, he turned into an, a long, furry black roll which gamboled about on the grass and then disappeared. So I just get this image of like a fluffy, like feather boa type thing,
yeah. Dragging
right?
about. Because it was you that mentioned to me about pixies and piskies disguising themselves as bundles of rags or
Yeah.
rags
Mm-hmm.
and cloth because I that's what it made me think of. So I thanks for repeating that because I was just trying to get in my mind's eye
Yes.
what that would have looked like that form. It's quite scary actually, isn't it? It's quite
Yeah, it's
scary little form to change into before it disappeared.
unnerving. So yeah, it does make you think, like you say, is that what people mean by seeing fairies, seeing pixies as bundles of rags? Maybe they're describing a similar thing that,
Yeah. Well, because obviously the reason I mentioned about yourself telling me about the rag thing
yes,
was because I've seen a couple of strange things in the
yes,
past that looked like pieces of fabric, pieces of cloth, sort of,
yeah.
well, one of them was gliding across the floor in
Oh,
really ancient woods, but it sort of just went into the undergrowth and it was gone. That was like a white coloured, almost looked like a handkerchief
that's
gliding
so
across the
weird.
ground. And then another one was literally resting on a rock down by a stream, and that was more like a burlap sack type piece of cloth, really tatty looking.
That's
And
really,
it was, yeah, red hot day. So I don't know, it's just making me think of those things I saw, how it
yes,
changed into something not, yeah, like no form to it, but enough form that it could look like a piece of material or fur or something. But yeah, that's exactly
yeah,
how I thought of that was a feather boa or
yeah. It's. I've heard another similar report like that that was in a film called The Fairy Faith or The Fairy Path. Came out in the 90s. It was like a Canadian film. This guy that's been interviewed,
I think I've seen
he
that.
was, have you seen it? Where
I
he
think
was talking,
I have.
yeah,
Was that the same documentary where the chap was having his shadow cut off?
that's the one I'm thinking
Yeah.
of. Yeah,
Oh, that is it. That one. Yeah.
yeah, because they were like, didn't they transform into something? Or they were cutting his shadow, weren't they? And I
Yeah.
think they,
Rolling it up.
that's it, yes. So, so fascinating.
Wow. Oh, I love it. Were there any more in there or anything
Yeah,
that?
I mean, the only thing I've sort of commented on this about, because I've been writing about this sighting, is that it was on like multiple thresholds. So it's on a cliff top, it's on the edge of water, it's in a valley with water going through it and marshland. Um, it's on the border of two counties,
So
and I think that part of the coast, because it's still really remote these days, you're just more likely to have strange experiences up there.
yeah. Some places are just like charged, aren't they, with
Yeah. Mm, it, bizarre. And the other favourite one that I like, this is a bit of a shorter one, is about a woman that was walking in the woods behind Berry Pomeroy Castle, which is a very haunted castle here in Devon. And she was walking through the woods and she sat down on a log in the woods. And out of the corner of her eye, she saw something move at the end of the log. It was a pixie wearing a little cap and jerkin, and he looked very annoyed at seeing her there. Suddenly, he sprang up, ran along the log, and slapped her in the face and disappeared.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Oh goodness
So,
me.
yeah,
I mean, I
he
don't mean to
wasn't
laugh the
happy.
poor woman, but God, I wonder
So,
what he was so unhappy about. Sat on the end of his log, maybe?
yeah, I think so. I think she was inadvertently in his space, sitting on his log.
I don't think that's the first time I've heard of someone getting slapped in the face by a fairy
Oh,
either.
really?
Sure, I've just read something about like that in another book. Yeah, that might be one of the one of the other ones I've got on my desk. Positive I've heard of someone else getting
Yeah,
slapped in the face.
yeah. To
Oh,
have
I know
that.
what book it was. Sorry, I do. I've just remembered. I've remembered what.
Okay, yeah, tell me.
I won't go into details about it, but it was literally. This is a definitely recommended book. Meeting the Other Crowd: The Fairy Stories of Hidden Island
Oh,
by
yes.
Eddie Lenehan.
Ah,
Absolutely, for me, this is on
mm,
the same part as Seeing Fairies.
hmm.
It's just account after account after account
Yes.
of like old Ireland. So it was in there. I've just had a flick through it because I've read it, but had a
Yeah.
flick through it again. And there is someone else that got slapped on the face by a fairy
Really?
in there. Yes.
Gosh. So what were they up to then? Why do you know
Um,
why they were slapped?
I think if memory serves, it was a little girl and she had just wandered off and got
Mm,
lost and
mm.
then cried onto a rock. And then once she cried onto the rock opened up and some fairies come out and slapped her in the face. And then she ran home, ran away,
Oh my God.
terrified. I'm
This
positive it
would
was, yeah,
be.
it was in there. But that is terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean,
Really?
that's two really weird accounts that I think sort of show that there's another side to fairies, that they don't just, there's different types of fairies, obviously, but
Yeah,
they all don't just float around and are pretty and whatever, that they can be quite visceral and these encounters can be quite terrifying.
yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, there's lots of stories, folklore and everything, where people have been blinded in one eye and
yeah.
all sorts
Mm,
of stuff like that. So they can be vengeful, can't they, and
mm.
mischievous and but that there's something about that that does tickle me that they just slap you in the face, run off.
It
I
reminds
think
me
I've
of
met
some.
some people like that in real life actually. So that's what I always think. Think of the nature of humans. I mean, they
Yeah.
are different. They don't necessarily go on the same
Mm.
as we do, but there's elements, different attitudes, different behaviours, isn't there? Can't just go slapping people in the face. Deary me.
Can you imagine? You just feel like you're just minding your own business and this little being runs up to you and God.
But it's wonderful that that person did share that account,
Yeah,
especially for the time that a lot of those accounts were taken as well.
exactly. And see people writing in these letters, they wouldn't have had any comparison. They wouldn't be able to go onto Google and think, oh yeah, so and so had a experience like that, or onto, Reddit or whatever. They
Yeah.
were all unique experiences coming together, and it's only by being in this book that you can nowadays we've got the I suppose the benefit of being able to compare them and think, oh my gosh, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
And that is strange that you picked that story, and I've just reread something literally just before today about that in there. So yeah, that's quite
Yeah.
synchronicity.
Yeah. So I mean, it shows as well that they can be very physical, isn't it? Like they're
Yeah,
not. They can appear like spirit, maybe, but they can manifest in this very physical way.
earthly,
Yeah.
yeah, way to slap someone in the face. It's me, poor woman. But yeah, and on the front of, I think that's right from when I read it, of seeing fairies, Claire. That picture
Mm.
of Marjorie
Yes.
shows a fairy sort of manifesting, doesn't it? I think she's playing music.
Oh,
I
so she's
believe that's what it is.
she's playing the recorder or something, or a flute,
Yeah.
isn't she? Oh, I didn't know that, Emma. I didn't know about
Yeah, I
the
think like the
photo.
little misty, I believe it was like a gnome,
Oh,
if
oh
I remember.
yes.
But yeah, and that's it sort of manifesting in the
Oh, I
photograph.
see. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do we know where that was taken? It looks like she's on a moor somewhere.
Yeah, I think it does say in there, but it is just such a wonderful book, isn't it?
Marjorie playing on a bamboo pipe heath. Heath near Castle Rising. Pine trees and birches, nature spirits veiled in ectoplasm on left foreground.
Yeah, brilliant.
Amazing.
Hello. Sorry I couldn't be there to join Emma and Claire. Sometimes being on different continents provides challenges with scheduling, but I'm here now to talk about a couple fairy books of mine. Now, the first one, Claire and Emma could have easily talked about themselves, and this is a very influential book to many, 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 many people, and I kind of laid claim to it to talk about. So this is Fairies by Brian Froud and Alan Lee, and this copy that I have is luckily you can't really tell on my low lighting, but it's extremely dirty and dingy because I've had it for so long and it's just loved on it and just read it and looked through it so many times. This is the 25th anniversary edition. So this is originally published, I believe, in 1978, and this was reprinted in 2002, I think. Yes, it is. So I think most people listening will probably be familiar with this book. So I won't really linger on it too long, but it is co-written and illustrated by Brian Froud and Alan Lee, which, Emma already talked about Brian Froud with the Good Fairies, Bad Fairies book, which I had, hopefully still have, I just don't know where it is. I've moved so many times, I've had to shuffle books around so many places. Hopefully it's somewhere, but love that book too. But I mean, Brian Froud and Alan Lee, both of them are masters in their craft and just immeasurably influential. Both of them working on films, Brian Froud, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, and Alan Lee on The Lord of the Rings movies and different illustrations of that. So, this book, which is a coffee table sized book, is packed with beautiful illustrations from each author, also filled with information about fairies. The majority of the book is different depictions and descriptions of various types of fairies. So I thought I would just mention a couple of my favorites in a second here, but first I'll just quickly go over my personal history with the book because it's so special to me, and I'm sure as it is to both Emma and Claire and many people listening and just throughout the world. So, of course, I grew up loving Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal. So I knew of Brian Froud before I knew of Brian Froud. I didn't find out about this book and who he really was until I was a teenager, probably, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13, when I made a friend who had a lot of the same interests in me in fantasy movies and fairies and magic and ghosts. And yeah, we had a lot of similar interests. And she introduced me to a lot of awesome things, one of them being this book. She had this book, and I fell in love. And I don't know at what point I connected the dots about, well, this is the concept designer for Labyrinth and Dark Crystal, two of my favorite movies. But she showed me this book, and I fell in love. And I always believed in fairies, but it was like hard to, I don't know, be public. I don't know, almost hard to accept it myself, because it's just not, to really actually believe in fairies is not a part of, American culture. European Americans, or just non-Native Americans. I don't know. But, it's not like a part of the mainstream culture here. Of course it is for, little people, which are, you can kind of draw parallels between fairies, of course. Their little people are very much part of different native cultures, but I didn't find out about that until very recently. So I believed in fairies, but that's not something I would really tell anyone. And it's not something I really even fully let myself believe. And I still kind of struggle with that, to be honest. But when I saw this book, I just looked at the drawings and I thought, oh man, that's what fairies really look like. And if I'm going to see one, which I desperately wanted to, it's going to look like this. One of these. These are real. You couldn't convince me that these weren't real. And there's even the photographs in the back that Brian Froud and Alan Lee took that are kind of their little nod to the Cottingley photographs that I thought were real too. So yeah, like these, which I might just put them on screen actually, but yeah, these pictures, couldn't have told me that those weren't real photographs, which yeah, was a lot of people's experience with the Cottingley photographs, right? So that was cool of them to include, because it had the same effect on a different generation. So anyway, I fell in love with this book, and I wanted a copy for myself, of course. So I remember asking my dad, or going to the bookstore with my dad, which we went to Barnes and Noble, which is still hanging on. And so I went to the art book section, and I found it, and I was looking through it. I used to always sit on the ground in the bookstore and look at books, find a little corner. Yeah. And so I found it, and then I went up to my dad, and I was like, can I please have this book? Please. And it wasn't even really the price necessarily that scared him off, although it was at the time. I don't know what it is now. It was a $25 book, which is pretty expensive. But I understand why it's that price. So it wasn't, before he could even react to shut me down with the price, he looked through it a little bit, and he's like, I am not buying this book. There's naked women in here. And that to me was so weird. I didn't get it. I was like, I'm a woman. I know what a naked woman looks like. But that was his reasoning for not getting it for me. So I asked my mom, and of course she got it for me. And the rest is history. This might be the one that I got. I don't remember if this is the same one. Probably is. So I just love it. And you can go back and just enjoy it again and again and again. So I thought I would share some of my favorite fairies in here. Some of my most memorable ones from when I was a kid. I'll show you. So I went and I put, hopefully you can see that because I can't see what you're seeing. I put like a little star in purple pen next to my favorites. And I did mark Pixies as one of my favorites, but I'll leave that to Claire Casely. That's her jam. So I won't go on too much about the Pixies, but I always loved the depictions of them in this book. But really, my favorites always have been, still are the scary fairies, like the unseelie fairies, I think is what this section is called in here. So rather than maybe trying to keep putting this big ass book up on the screen, I will put the pictures on the screen for you. But another one of my favorites was the Kelpie. That imagery is just so haunting and spooky, with the crow on its head and the maggots like crawling through its skin. So I'll read what it says. The Kelpie is a Scottish water fairy, although sometimes appearing in the guise of a hairy man. This is more often seen in the form of a young horse. The Kelpie haunts rivers and streams, and after letting unsuspecting humans mount him, will dash into the water and give them a ducking. Oh man, okay, so the Irish components, which I'm not going to even try and say. The Irish version of the Kelpie inhabits seas and lochs and is far more dangerous. After carrying his victims into the water, he will tear them to pieces and devour them, leaving nothing but the liver. If it is ridden inland, he is quite safe, but the slightest smell or sight of seawater will spell death to the rider. Yeah, so, a lot of people love and are fascinated by Kelpies, right? It's just, I don't know, the fairy horse. I didn't really remember that it said that the Kelpie is sometimes a hairy man. So it can be like a Bigfoot or a wild man. I'm going to have to remember that and look into that more. All right, so the next one that I want to mention is Jenny Greenteeth. And I guess I would have seen Legend first, because I saw Legend when I was really, really young. Ridley Scott's movie. Young enough that I would have... so I got into scary movies. Like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff when I was really young, because my siblings are all 10 years older than me. So when they would babysit, they just watch whatever. And so I would just watch what they watched, and I loved it. But Legend was one of those movies and became one of my favorite movies, but I didn't realize that it was a scary movie for young kids. So I remember being maybe 8 or 9 or something and having one of my friends over and showing her, because we loved unicorns. We both loved unicorns. And that movie is all about unicorns. So I showed her, and within like the first 5 minutes, as soon as the goblins come on screen, she was freaking out and crying. I was like, turn it off. I was like, okay, what's your deal? Anyway, so they do have a Jenny Greenteeth character in that movie, but her name's Meg Mucklebones. And I love that character in the movie. I love that scene in the movie. So when I saw Jenny Greenteeth in this book, I was like, oh my god, it's Meg Mucklebones. She's a real thing. She's a real thing in folklore, at least. And the image is very, very creepy as well. I remember, so Simon Young has a great article, essay, paper, whatever, article on Jenny Greenteeth, and he references this image, and he says that his kids, it was a consensus among his children that the Jenny Greenteeth illustration was by far the scariest one in the book. So here's what it says. There are many water spirits whose sole delight is the drowning and devouring of children. Probably most of these were invented by mothers to keep their children away from open riverbanks. The River Tees has one by the name of Pig Powler, and Yorkshire River is tenanted by Jenny Greenteeth. Both are green hags with long flowing hair and sharp teeth, who drag their victims down to watery graves. So I love Jenny, and now I have a ongoing obsession with green hags, really, green ladies. And Jenny's at the forefront of that. So there was one more I wanted to show. Let me find him. Let me find my spooky little boy. All right. The puka. Man, this image just is powerful. I just loved that awesome goat-headed. Ooh, it's like, I mean, it's metal, right? It's awesome. So, the puka is an Irish goblin with a variety of rough, beast-like forms. He appears sometimes as a dog or a horse or even a bull, but he is generally jet black with blazing eyes. As a seemingly friendly, shaggy, sway-backed pony, Puka offers the unwary traveler a welcome lift. But once astride, he is taken for a wild and terrifying gallop across the wettest and most thorny country, eventually to be dumped headlong into the mire or deposited in a ditch. The chuckle is that of the puka as he gallops away. And then it also says the puka sometimes takes the form of an eagle and carries men on his back. So, I have come to appreciate the different forms of the puka, particularly the black dog that comes up a lot. I feel like, I don't know, I believe it's Alan Lee who did this, the puka page. It looks like his style. I feel like I don't want to say he took liberties with, but he came up with this image of the puka as this, like, goat-headed man. Because I don't think I've really heard that in folklore, although if it is a thing, I'd love to know. But just this image is just so haunting and, like, but it's also badass. And I was like, dude, I don't care how scary the puka is, like, I kind of want to hang out. So I treasure every page in that book, but the spooky fairies are just, they do something for me. They still do.
So the next one I chose for this chat is, like I said, a complete guide to fairies and magical beings. Oh, I'm going to drop it now. By Cassandra Easton. And I came across this book, I believe it was like the year 2000, I think 2001. And it was like it was a life-changing book for me. It was like the first time I'd ever come across sort of a book actually talking about seeing fairies, connecting with them, communicating with them, and just ways that you can, like breaking it down. And one of the things that I really could not get over was the fact that there was a couple of little parts, I believe it's the author, talking about very similar experiences as a child that had happened to me with fairies. And that absolutely blew me away. Again, where we've just said you can look at different books and things now and compare from different places. I'd never come across it. Well, I think back then I don't think I'd ever really told anybody what I'd experienced, apart from maybe like my parents or something like that. But I certainly hadn't sort of openly chatted about those accounts with anybody. So to read similar things in the book, I was like, oh my word, like this is real.
Yes.
The things I've experienced and I've seen, it is real. But this book is just so lovely because it breaks sort of everything down. So you've got sort of like chapters on the origins of fairies, who are the fairies, evidence of fairies, fairies in literature and legend, and then it goes into your different types of fairies, nature spirits, devas and elementals, darker side of fairies. So it just sort of breaks everything down, and then there's an A to Z of fairies in the back of it, which I thought was super handy at the time, because again, I'd never come across anything else like that before. suggested reading. So they recommend like other places to check things out. So yeah, for me, I mean, it's quite faded now. It's quite worn because once I read it, I couldn't put it down. I kept reading and reading, and yeah, it was like
Yeah.
that part of me. It really felt like I was meant to find it
Mm-hmm.
to sort of open up that side of me again, because I think I've mentioned it before, and even on the
Mm.
Fairy Whispering podcast when I did those couple of episodes, that I'd sort of shut it down a little bit as a teenager and things.
Yes.
So this was like, I remember it was like waking that fairy part of me back up again.
Oh, when did you
So
find that book?
it was literally just in Waterstones one day, and I
Yeah.
remember I wasn't looking for anything
Mm.
in particular. I just was randomly stumbling around in the shop, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a lot of money then, obviously
Mm.
myself. And I stumbled across this,
Oh,
and it
wow.
literally jumped out at me on the bookcase, and it was even obviously the piece of art on the front, which
Yeah, yeah. It's Arthur
is an
Rackham.
Arthur Rackham,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Mm.
obviously he went on to become one of my most favourite fairy artists.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just much loved treasure this book.
Oh,
It taught us a lot.
yes. And books like that, I find they're just really hard to let go of, aren't they? There are some books I just know I can never let go of because they become so important to you, don't they? So it sounds like
Yeah,
that kind of book that you've discovered something
yeah,
that resonates, and that's so valuable, isn't it? Um, I mean, that's what I love about doing this podcast, Fairy Whispering. There's other fairy podcasts like Joe's Modern Fairy Sightings. If you've had, a strange experience or a fairy experience, then hearing about other people's experiences is so validating.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think reading about someone having very similar experiences as well to me, I was
Mm,
like, I'm not alone in this. Someone else has seen the exact same thing I've seen, or at
yeah.
least very closely.
So
So yeah.
what's the experience in the book? Do you want to share a bit
I
of
was
it?
just trying to flick through to find it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Go
sorry if I
ahead.
look distracted, but it was, what
It's
page
okay.
is it? Evidence for Fairies 57, because it was about children
Okay.
being mum. And obviously it was about the episode for your podcast was the Goblin Market one.
Yes,
Um
that was
that's
amazing.
those experiences that I had there. Evidence of Fairies. I mean, just little quotes like this at the top of the page. There are fairies at the bottom of our gardens.
Mm, yes.
It just is. Okay. Childhood fairies. Childhood fairies. Let's have a look a minute. I mean, this little bit here, I've always been a bit of a nature child. I could potter about outside for hours. I was at my happiest when digging around in the muck, climbing trees, or playing with bees. That's
Mm.
me and my childhood right there. I used to let them crawl about on my hands and knees, and I never got stung. So
Oh,
even that, reading that, I remember being, well, that's what I used to do. And I used to sing to the bees and talk to the bees and
mm.
whisper them secrets, and I'd hold them cupped in my hand and tell them things. And then they'd
Oh,
sing me, they were so gentle, and they'd fly away.
that's beautiful, Emma.
She talks about seeing um, objects, strange objects, and faces and forms would appear out the corner of her eye, the side of my vision. They would appear only for a fraction of a second, and when I looked again, they wouldn't be there.
Mm.
These faces and forms soon became familiar to me. I never thought to question them until years later. And that is
Right.
lovely, isn't it? Because you don't,
Yes.
especially when you're a kid, you don't
Yeah.
think, you just know.
Yes.
Don't you know what's
Yeah.
happened? You know what you've seen. But then she does mention about it was the front bedroom. Sorry, the front bedroom was, as my sister put it, weird.
Mm.
My bedroom was a front bedroom where I had the fairies on the
Oh,
windowsill.
right. Okay.
Well, she shuddered to herself and then went on to tell me a few strange things that happened to her. She described the exact same thing I saw for several nights running. We both saw a tiny figure standing behind the curtain early in the morning.
Oh gosh. That's interesting, isn't it? Behind the
Yeah,
curtains, like you
behind the
did.
curtain. I
Yeah.
remember so clearly because I thought my mother had put a doll behind the curtain as a joke.
Oh wow.
I snatched the curtain back and there was nothing to be seen. And that's exactly what I used to do. I used to sneak out of the bed,
Yeah.
go over to the curtains and whip the curtains back really quickly, desperate to see
Mm.
them. And
Mm-hmm.
there'd been absolutely nothing there. And then I'd go and get
Mm.
back in bed, and within a few minutes, they'd reappear again. So, yeah, nothing to cast a sort of shadow onto my window either. When the
Mm-hmm.
curtain fell back again, it was gone. Yeah. My sister
That's
said that she used to
interesting.
see it from her cot, and she told me that its hair seemed to be curly and kind of loose style, which fitted perfectly with what I'd seen.
Oh wow.
So, but
Yeah.
they describe it, lots of strange things happened in that front bedroom. Amongst these were a goblin type creature running across the
Mm.
floor just as I was waking up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So and sort of a constant feeling of being watched from the corners. Not a bad feeling, but not a very comfortable one either, she's put.
Mm.
So,
That's so fascinating. And anybody watching, I'll put the episodes in the description for this episode of from Fairy Whispering that I recorded with Emma, so you can hear about her experiences.
yeah.
Yeah,
But that, honestly, as a teenager, I mean, it still gets me now when I've just
yeah.
reread that. But the first time reading that,
Mm.
I'd never even told anybody really about that. And it was, yeah. And I don't think, actually, I don't believe I've come across anyone that's had quite so similar as that lady there as my
Yeah,
experience. So,
and it just makes you wonder, doesn't it, with the shadows, how are they how are they able to cast shadows if they're not actually there? It's strange, isn't
mm.
it? They're not
Or
actually
they just
visible.
slip back into their
Yeah,
dimension in that, or whatever it is, a different state as you
yes,
whip the curtain back.
yes.
So are they able I mean, I've seen them before where they
Mm.
move so quickly, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
They move so fast in and
Mm.
out of our sort of reality.
Yeah, and I think that's why they're just very difficult to photograph. And
Yeah.
maybe as our technology improves, 'cause I do believe, I know this is a very contentious issue with a lot of paranormal investigators, but I believe that they can be photographed. And some people get lucky and capture them on film.
Mm.
Yeah, so, but
I
they are
often
very
think,
fast. Yeah.
yeah, they're very fast. Maybe when they do get captured,
Mm.
they're not paying attention
Yes.
quite as much. They've just
Yeah.
stopped for a minute and forgot to disappear in time.
I think so. Yeah.
Or sometimes they're shocked. When I've experienced them, I think
Mm.
sometimes they're shocked that you're able
Yes.
to see them.
Yes. That's where,
Often
yeah.
we just catch a glimpse for a minute.
Yeah. Uh, when I've, so whenever I go into nature, I always find it takes a few minutes to sort of just drop into the resonance of that place. If you're very
Yeah.
stressed as well, it take a long time. But once you're in the resonance of that place, that I find, I don't know if the same, Emma, that's when I start to see things. And it might just be a brief glimpse of a face that's coming, emerging from a tree or a little being that comes into view, and then they sort of just fade back again. That's the way I see them anyway. They appear and then they disappear. It's almost like this, you're seeing into their dimension temporarily. And for some reason, apart from, you know, some people, and you've had experience of this, of being in that space for a longer time. It's difficult to stay in that, I think as adults as well, stay in that resonance.
Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
that's definitely why kids are able to see them more as
Mm.
well. That the world hasn't got to them yet.
Yeah.
Affected them yet. They're not, yeah. So it's fascinating. But I think
Yeah.
I want to say a beginner to
Mm.
learning about fairies or connecting with fairies and just finding more
Mm.
about them, I think the books that we've talked about
Mm.
have got so much information for people
Yes.
to learn about, and even if you just like a good story, because there's some absolutely amazing stories in seeing fairies,
Yeah.
isn't there? It's
Yeah.
such a good collection of accounts. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that one, Emma. It's lovely. I can't wait to receive my copy of that, which I
Yeah, it's good.
just ordered. The thing is with writing about fairies, as I am at the moment writing my own book about fairies, about pixies, just when I think I'm finishing, I'll come across some more some
More.
more
Yeah.
information.
So
Like,
you
oh my God.
haven't been yet, Claire? Mm.
God. Right. So this is, as I introduced at the beginning, Pixie Folklore and Legends by Ennis Tregarthen. And I'll just tell you a little bit about her. So her real name was Ellen Sloggett, and she changed her name to Nellie Cornwall at one
Oh,
stage. That was one of her writing names, and then she became Ennis Tregarthen. And Ennis connects with the landscape of Cornwall. So she went from writing stories that were quite Christianized, so fairy stories that had a bit of a moral element in them, to writing stories towards the end of her life that were just very influenced by the Cornish landscape and her Celtic heritage. And she was disabled, um, so she relied on people she knew to give her these stories because she couldn't actually. I think as a child, she would have been able to go out and explore the landscape, but as she progressed through life, she became more and more disabled. So she was actually practically housebound, and she wrote about the pixies and fairies from her bedroom. That was her, yeah. So again, Dr. Simon Young has written a brilliant paper, which I think is now a book all about her because he wrote about how she's a very overlooked folklorist,
mm.
and he wanted to, just show that her work is very valuable
Well,
to.
that's the first time I've heard of her.
Yes,
So that's something new I've learned. I should be looking up
you'll
that.
love the way she writes, Emma. I think it
Yeah.
will inspire you and anybody listening. She's just writes with a lot of heart, and you can tell that she has a real connection with the landscape and the subject that she's writing about. Very inspiring. So she wrote a few books, The Pisky Purse, Legends and Tales of North Cornwall, and that was published in 1905. The one I've got, Pisky Folklore, was published after her death, and it was an American author called Elizabeth Yates that collected a lot of Ennis's writings together after her death and compiled them into this book. Um, and my favourite story, or one of my favourites, is called The Pisky Revellers. And it's about a family called the Kelloways that lived in Port Quinn, which is where, do you remember the TV series Doc Martin?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Went
where
to visit
he.
there one day and we saw him filming it
Oh,
across.
really?
Oh, yeah. So we
Well, that,
waved at him.
well, this is where that story's from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the Kelloways lived in a row of cottages in Port Quinn, and they every night they had little people, the pixies, visiting them to dance in their living room. Uh, and they had this kind of deal with the pixies that when the pixies knocked on their jug, they had this jug on their dresser that the family knew it's time for them to go to bed, so the pixies could have their sitting room for the evening to dance.
So they could have a nightclub in their
Yeah,
kitchen. I love that.
yeah. So this is also like a romance as well because there's Jennifer Calloway and her boyfriend, whose name I haven't noted. Oh, Bennett. He he visits her and he walks from his home a couple of miles away across the cliffs to visit Jennifer. And he gets a bit fed up with being told to go home at 8 o'clock or whatever it is because the pixies need to come and dance in the sitting room. So, yeah, it's a lovely story, but he gradually gets to understand the pixies because he sees them all one night on their way to Port Quinn, and he comes to respect that custom. And so he and Jennifer eventually they're happily married, and the pixies carry on with their nightly antics, knocking on the jug and dancing in the sitting room. So it's just really beautiful, beautifully written. And she mentions a lot of Cornish places as well. Like there's Moon's Ground, um, which is a place I think where there's lots of little bumps in the land up on the cliffs. And that's where the pixies live. They live in the little hillocks, and that's
Oh,
where they come out of at night. Yeah. So
a lovely story.
it is. It's a,
I do love that. Like,
yeah,
just shows that you can, because I always think this, you can still connect with landscapes and places and spirit of place and
mm,
fairies. You can still connect with them, even if you haven't got the mobility to get out. You can just
yes.
look at a picture of a place, you can see it and feel it in your heart.
Mm,
And I can feel that
mm,
from her, from that story you've said. Even if she
yeah,
couldn't physically get there, you can, in your essence, your part of your soul can still access
yeah. And
those landscapes.
she used to tell stories to her like nieces and nephews as well. So she loved telling stories.
Yeah.
And you can tell that the way the stories are written, she loved Cornwall. She loved storytelling. She was expressing a lot of those things about human life
Hmm.
through stories. So yeah, I'd
Cool.
highly recommend it. And there's I have shed a tear on many occasions reading her stories because they're just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think good stories do move you, don't they? And I think that's important too with
And I think that chap in that tale
stories.
chose wisely to learn to accept them dancing in the living room because he could have had the same fate as the lady in the last one. Couldn't he, or worse?
I don't think it would have ended well for
No,
him.
I don't think it would have. Oh, but that's so lovely. I'll definitely check her out.
Yeah, yeah, you should. And yeah, I must say, a lot of the books that we're talking about, apart from maybe the more modern ones, are probably available online as well because there's a really good website called archive.com, which you can go onto and find loads of books about fairies on there. And I think Ennis's books are on there definitely, and read them for free. So that's another way to access books. And there's
Yeah,
also Sacred Texts, which is another great website that has a lot of older books with fairy folklore too.
wonderful.
Yes.
So that last story that you've just read, Claire, as well, is just before we started recording, we had a little chat. I am always so fascinated about fairies appearing in the home or like,
Mm-hmm.
in people's houses. I just, rather than it being out in nature, there's something so fascinating about them appearing in our spaces like
Yes.
that. I love it.
Just to give
Um,
her a mention, I'm not going to say too much about it, but this is one of my all-time favourite books. Devon Ghosts by Theo Brown, another wonderful researcher, and she's got a brilliant section about pixies in here, fairies that come from the southwest of England. And she's got a huge archive of research material at Exeter University as well. So I just wanted to give her a shout out. She's another favourite researcher of mine.
oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. That's another new one for me as well. It's exciting.
So the next book I wanted to talk about is actually a collection of short stories. It's fiction, which I know someone could be very cheeky about and say, these are all fiction. But this is definitely fiction in the truest sense of the word. It's a book of short stories by the author Susanna Clarke, who is famous for her huge novel, magical historical fiction fantasy, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I highly recommend. I mean, fairies play a big part in that as well, but it's like thick and it's like over 1,000 pages. I love that book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. But she has written a short story collection called The Ladies of Grace Adieu. And not all of the stories, I'll admit, have fairies, but I'd say, I'm going to highlight 3 that do. And they are really, really impressive. Like some of the best modern fiction, fantasy, fairy stories, not fairy tales. Stories where fairies are the subject. They're some of the best. And part of that is because she is so knowledgeable about folklore and history, and she's a very, very knowledgeable and well-researched person. So that just really enriches her fiction. So one of the stories is called Mrs. Mab. And it's about a woman who, she has this wonderful Irish lover who I think is a captain or something in the army or whatever. And so they're in love, but she has to go and care for someone who's sick. So when she comes back, she finds out that her man has been stolen away by some mysterious neighborhood woman named Mrs. Mab. And so she was asking everyone, like, who is this woman? Who is this lady? I mean, what's going on? And everyone's like, oh, Mrs. Mab. She's like, what does she look like? And they're like, I've never seen her. Where does she live? Over there. It's like, it's weird because everyone knows who she is, but no one's actually seen her or possibly interacted with her. And she's mysteriously stolen away her man. So she's like, well, I'm at least going to go find him and make sure he's happy. And I don't know what her deal is. She's just got to go see for herself what's going on. But every time she tries to go to find Mrs. Mab's house, she basically, she gets pixie-led, but she'll start walking towards the house, and then she'll wake up the next day, and people have found her, like, disheveled, with her feet bleeding and, like, some weird clothes, and she doesn't remember what happened. Anyway, I won't spoil it too much, but, I mean, if you know anything about fairies, too, I mean, the name Mrs. Mab does tell you maybe something about what kind of woman she really is, if she's a real human woman at all. That one's really good. Another one is called On Licorice Hill, and this one, I forgot to mention, too, that this book is illustrated by Charles Vess, which is also a beloved and influential fairy illustrator. And I am going to say I don't actually have my physical copy of the book anymore, which is very sad because, well, so I had this lovely version. It was not mine. It was the library's. I have to come clean. I had a copy from the library, and there's a version of this book that actually, it's not hard to find, but I don't think they're printing them anymore. I could be wrong about that. But there's a copy of it that's like a cloth bound, like a cloth hardcover version, and it's beautiful. So I had that on loan from the library, right? And then I did the thing where I lent it out to somebody, and I didn't get it back. So, I know where my karma lies. I'm sorry. Okay? So I don't have a copy. But what I'll do is I will utilize which I probably already did for the, when I edited this video, for the pages for the fairies book too. But I will utilize something Claire mentioned, the archive, Internet Archive, archive.org, where you can view and borrow just thousands of different books for free. You just have to make a login, or you can just use your Google account. Basically sign in, and yeah, you can borrow books until somebody else wants it. I will say this book actually is not available to borrow, but I can at least pull some screen grabs so you can see some of the beautiful illustrations. Anyway, another story called On Licorice Hill is a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin, but it's drawn directly from Edward Claude, who's a folklorist. His 1898 reproduction of the Suffolk version of Rumpelstiltskin, basically, which there are many different versions depending on where you are. This is the Suffolk version, and it's called Tom Tit Tot. And Susanna Clark pulls directly from that telling, but she adds her own flavor to it. She kind of fleshes it out a bit, but it's told in authentic 17th century phonetics, and it's quite funny too. That British humor, really, really good. And then the last one that I want to mention is a story called, this story is called Mr. Simonelli, or The Fairy Widower. And this one it's the longest one in the book. It's like 50 pages or so. I think it's the longest one in the book. It's a really good, it's a good length. story, but it is a retelling, her own version of the fairy midwife kind of story, if you're familiar with that. If you're not, I'll just kind of leave it at that, and maybe you can seek it out. But that story is amazing. The one in this book, The Fairy Widower, it is so good, and it really shows those evil gentry that I love so much. Evil in a human context. I mean, fairies don't do things because they think they're evil. They just do things because they want to, right? But it is a fantastic story. So it just, yeah. I mean, I just want you to read it. Anyway, I can go on and on and on. So I highly recommend that book, at least those 3 stories, if you just want to read about fairies. But they're all really good stories. I think one or two. Oh, there's another fairy story too, but I'll leave that for you if you go seek it out. But they're all like magical stories. Two of them are like in universe of the Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell book. I think you'd be okay if you haven't read that book. I think you'd be fine. It's just kind of fun if you are familiar with that universe and those characters. I mean, the universe of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is just Victorian England, but magic's real. It's just like a magical realism version of Victorian England where there are practicing magicians. Awesome book. So yeah, those are the books that I wanted to talk about, and I really enjoyed hearing about the books that Claire and Emma talked about as well. I also have Seeing Fairies, of course. Highly recommend that book. Such an amazing book. And actually, while we're here, since they both read a story from Seeing Fairies, I'll just read a short one too, and then we'll finish up. So, one morning in November 1949, Miss Ruby D. Johnson of County Kildare was seated in the Dublin-bound bus that leaves Polpuka, a Gaelic place name signifying Pool of the Puka, or Puck's Pool. At about 7:30 a.m., just as the bus was starting off, she glanced idly through the window and was amazed to see a tiny child busily gathering something from the nettles and weeds that fringed the roadside. It was dressed entirely in white cap, coats, and leggings. Miss Johnson's amazement was due to the fact that the child was about the size of a 7-month-old baby, and yet was able to walk. She was also very surprised that such a small child should be allowed out in the bitterly cold semi-darkness of a wintry morning. Quote, "I clutched my companion and tried to draw her attention to the little figure," she said, "but my companion could not see it at all, and the other passengers in the bus began to eye me strangely." End quote. Wow. So, I just had my bookmark there. Kind of wild that the puka came up. Yeah, because Paul Puka, I don't know if I'm saying that right. The place name mentioned there translates to Pool of the Puka, and the puka there is, maybe it comes in other forms, but I know it's a lot of times said to appear there as a black dog. There's even a stamp. No, not a stamp. Like a cigarette pack, I believe. There was these series of cigarette cards. I think there's something that came with cigarette packs. I don't know what year, but the one for Palpuka is the waterfall and the pool with a black dog standing in front of it. So, and I'm still looking at the puka over here. So, oh, that's fun.
Did you want to mention your bits from Seeing Fairies, Emma, before we...
So yes, I was just flicking through again, about any stories, and I thought I'd pick Kent because that's where I'm from originally. Living in the northeast of England now, but yeah. So I just saw a little a little story. Well, there was two actually. So this one happened, and this is in Seeing Fairies again. Um, what I'm about to relate, she said, happened 2 weeks before Christmas in 1919. I
Mm.
had taken my afternoon nap and was coming down the stairs in the gathering dusk when I saw coming towards me up the stairs on my right a small fairy, flying as if she was in a great hurry. She was about 5 inches in length, her arms were moving as if she was swimming the crawl stroke, and her legs were keeping time with them. Her little limbs were waxen in appearance, her small head was covered with fair, close, curly hair, her wings were like silver gossamer, and she wore a small skirt of the same material. Everything about her looked beautiful in the dim light. She became visible about 4 feet in front of me and passed me at approximately 2 feet 6 inches from the stair tread. I turned and looked after her, and another 4 feet behind me, she disappeared into thin air.
Oh gosh, Emma.
No. Well, I said to myself, if I were a child, I should say I had just seen a fairy,
Mm.
but I did not tell anyone. A few days later, I was sitting in the dining room by the fire, knitting a jumper with wool of a green heather mixture, when from the side of the fireplace on my right came the same little fairy figure.
Oh,
I
wow.
followed her flight for about the same distance as previously, when she again disappeared into thin air.
Mm.
I was 41 years old at the time. It was
Mm.
only in that house that I ever saw a fairy, and I have often wondered why she appeared to me only and why she was always in such a terrible hurry. And I just loved that. I loved that she saw it. She saw the same little fairy twice
Yes.
in two different places.
Wow.
Yeah. And that again, similar to other stories, it was only in that house. How many
Mm.
times have we come across that? Where
Yeah.
people have experiences, but only in that one house.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was the only one that saw it. Nobody else that she lived with.
That can I just oh, I don't want to go off track here, but I
Yeah.
just mentioned yeah, the experience, I've mentioned it before on other podcasts, but when I was in 2016, I was staying in a little cottage with my mum, just gone away for a weekend in North Devon in Bideford. And the first morning, I was on the way downstairs and I'd been meditating in bed before that. So I was feeling receptive, I think. And on the way downstairs to breakfast, this little gold orb flew in front of me on the stairs, crossed in front of me on the stairs. And it's quite quick, but not too quick that I couldn't see what it was. So I felt that was connected with the garden because it's a beautiful, she had a really beautiful wildflower garden at the back of the cottage. And for me, that was, yeah, a fairy. But I didn't
Yeah.
see it as a fairy. I saw it's a little golden orb.
Golden
Mm,
light. Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? I
mm.
love it. And that was at near the stairs.
That was on the stairs, yeah.
That was near the fireplace and the stairs. So again,
Yes.
places again, those in between
In
sort of
bet-
spaces. And I
yes.
just forgot to mention that happened in 1919 in Ramsgate. That happened, and it
Right.
was a Mrs. Edith F. Ellis
Mm.
that
Lovely.
she did live in that house with her husband, three children, and a nanny, and she was the only
Oh,
one that ever saw the little fairy. So
amazing.
yeah, so that's just a
Mm.
few of the stories that are in that book.
Yeah. Thank you for
It's
sharing
just
that.
jam-packed, isn't it, of beautiful.
It is. It's mind-boggling, really. And you know, there have been other collections of fairy experiences, but not as comprehensive as that so
Mm.
far.
And it is just
Yeah,
one after the other, isn't it?
yeah,
Read it. There's different sections, but it's just one after the other after the other.
yeah.
Amazing.
It's lovely. Yeah, fantastic. Ah, thank you, Emma. Was there anything
Thank
else
you.
you were going to share, or is that
No, I think that's it.
done?
But I would love to hear from listeners if they have any favourite books they can recommend, or if you are going to go on to check out some of these ones that we've talked about today. That would
Yes.
be really exciting because I've got some more reading to do now. Thank you, Claire.
I know, so have I.
Because they definitely go on my wish list or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah. And I'll put a link to how you can contact us in the notes for this show. Please do write in to comment on this episode about anything you'd like to share with us to do with
yeah,
books, or any experiences you've had with fairies. We'd love to hear from you. As
love to
Emma
hear
said.
about
Yeah.
always wonderful. And no doubt we'll do another episode on books because there's
Yeah.
so many.
There are so many. Yeah. So, oh my gosh, we could probably just do a whole podcast about fairy books.
Yeah. It's so great that there's so many available,
Mm,
so much information
yeah.
available now. And like you said, it doesn't have to cost. You can get secondhand ones, you can get them
Mm,
for free as
mm,
well. Access them. The
yeah.
information is there, isn't it?
World of Books, eBay, independent booksellers, secondhand bookstores. They're all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, enjoy reading, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, everyone. And
Thanks for
thanks,
listening.
Emma. And
Thank you.
yeah, see you next time.
See you next time. Stay magical.
Stay magical, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed what I'm sure is part 1 of fairy books. And yeah, we'd love to hear what books are special to you and what are your favorite fairy books. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining us. And see you next time. Stay magical.